Oh, hello there. Long time no see, folks. Let's go for a walk outside. I'm done playing with the printer for now. Ugh. Sunny out. Oh, it's hot out today. So, long time no see, everyone. It's been about 10 days since I wrapped up the Video a Day project, and I wanted to take some time to talk a little bit about printing and why it's important, especially as a photojournalist, and the handful of benefits you get from it. There's a hawk over there. Not that you can see it with a wide-angle lens. Spent the better part of 2 hours trying to do a more scripted discussion yesterday, but I really not quite there with it yet. I sat down to try and edit it and didn't like what I was coming up with. So I figured I would step back and do something I feel a little more capable of. Just walking and talking and spitting it off the dome. So, printing your work. Why does it matter? First, one of the things I really like about printing my work is it lets me see it differently. I get a deeper understanding of the qualities and some of the details inherent in the pictures beyond what you get even when looking at it on a high resolution monitor, even zoomed in. Seeing it as a whole and being able to really use your eyes, to me, makes a huge difference in how I see my work. On top of that, deer out there. On top of that, I find it really beneficial when you're laying out your images in a sequence for a photo story or an essay. When you have a physical copy that you can plunk down in front of you, I think that makes a huge difference. I can't sit on that table. I'll come over here. All right, it's good to get out of the house. Since my last video, I've fixed my printer, which means I now have a lot of printing I can catch up on. I still haven't gotten any of the color film from my family that I'm going to develop, but I do have a lot of prints from various projects I worked on last year for school that I would like to print out, and prints that I need to send off to the people who helped make those projects happen, particularly my buddy Blake, who let me tag along on a trip to Nashville back in November, which was super cool. So, printing, and why you should be doing it. For multiple reasons. It gives you a better understanding of your own work. You should be printing for yourself. And if you're working on a photo essay or a story, having physical prints to sequence things, it makes it a lot easier to identify visual juxtapositions and layer in more meaning to how you order your sequence. I also feel, at least for me, having a physical print, computer screens are great. They let you focus in on really small portions of your image and see it in pretty high fidelity. But when you're viewing your work like that, I feel like you don't really get to see the greater context of the image, the same way that you can by getting up close to your print. I don't know, maybe it's a me thing. The other important reason to have prints is if you're working digitally, as most of us are for most things, having digital copies of your work is important, and having those digital copies backed up. If you don't, go to the store now, buy another hard drive, back up all your pictures, at least the important ones, maybe even back up copies of your printable files, right? Got your digital negatives and you should have a nice tone crop JPEG that you can just fire print off of. Also good to back up, especially if you don't want to have to re-edit your image every time you want to print it. Now, assuming you have all of that backed up, digital media still fails. The file types we're using now might not be ubiquitous forever. I mean, your NEF and your Canon RAW files are, most of that's not going anywhere, probably. But at the same time, too distracted. At the same time, there's no guarantee if you died tomorrow and your grandchildren or great-grandchildren dug out your old hard drive and wanted to look at your images, they might not have access to those files the same way if they pulled out a box of prints or your old folder of negatives. Those things will outlast. Having a physical backup of your work is just another way of making sure that you're not as likely to lose everything should some malady befall you. Aside from that, beyond those personal reasons you might want to have copies of your work or ways you can enrich your understanding of the photos and images you produce, prints are a really nice thank you for the time and access that, as a photojournalist, the people you work with often give you. Through a series of other connections, I ended up on my birthday back in November in a van tucked beside tons of instruments and recording equipment on my way to Nashville for a friend's giving and a 3-day recording marathon that I got to photograph and video a little bit, which was a blast. And for a multitude of reasons, I haven't been able to share that work with the people who made that happen, right? It's the end of the semester, then the holidays, and then the start of another semester, and then the world kind of went pear-shaped. But now, since the end of June's Video Day project, I finally had time to fix my printer, and now I can catch up on a lot of that printing. And I'm really excited to share that work with those people, because it's no small thing to allow more or less a stranger to tag along and take up car space and crash at your house and point a camera at you. There's some trust involved in that. And as a photographer, it's all too easy once you're done with a project to wash your hands of it and move on to the next thing without offering any sort of real closure to the people you were working with. And I think it's just a really nice and appropriate gesture in many cases to offer them some memento of the time that they allowed you to share. And in some cases, it can also help open doors for you. For my photo essay course this last semester, having prints of the people within the community I was working with and having physical copies of those prints really allowed me to explain what I was doing there, what the goal of my project was. Really allowed me to explain my purpose in being there. And for some of those people, seeing pictures of their neighbors and friends gave me a lot of credibility to the things I was saying. So that can be another benefit of having copies. Not that I always keep copies of current and past projects on me, but it's worth having a little gallery in your phone at the very least. Anyways, I think that's all I really have to say about it. Print your work. There's benefits for you, there's benefits for other people. You should have multiple copies. And I'm not saying that you need to have your own ink-guzzling wide format printer. It's nice to have that control, but there's plenty of more economical opportunities to print your work. And you don't have to print large images. 4x5s are wonderful. All right, I'm getting too in my own head here now, trying to keep straight of the things I've said and which take was good and which one wasn't. And we're just gonna call it here, and I'll make something work. But if you guys have any thoughts on reasons why you should print your work or shouldn't, or giving prints away as a thank you to the people who you're photographing, leave them in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts on the subject, and we'll figure this out. I'll get better at this. We're just going to keep on practicing, and this is how we grow. Anyways, later folks.